This is Scott Campbell from the Stupid Things for Love podcast. I have a 7-year-old son, and the biggest mountain I climb every day is trying to put shoes on this child. And I'm so grateful to Skechers for making the only shoes my son will willingly put on by himself. Their slip-ons are amazing, and he doesn't have to deal with laces. He doesn't have to deal with anything. They come in the perfect color blue. Thank you, Skechers, the comfort technology company. And you can find Skechers everywhere. Skechers.com, a Skechers store, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Welcome to the Dynasty Dugout Show, a podcast covering all things minor league baseball. Get a front row seat to the action with everything you need to know about the future stars of Major League Baseball. And now, here's your host, Chris Clegg.
What is happening, everybody? Good morning. Thank you for joining us early today. I know I put out there a little earlier today because I have my Tout Wars draft going on at noon Eastern. So the normal streaming time of 1 Eastern would not work today, but we are here to break down Cincinnati Reds farm system. It is a really fun group. Even though they graduated a lot last year, there's still a lot to like in this system. A couple of news and notes to cover from yesterday. Obviously, there was a lot of action. Full slate of games yesterday. You can check out my full breakdown on the dynastydugout.com, Dynasty Digest, full rundown there. But a couple things I do want to hit on from yesterday. Yuri Perez had a weird curveball. It was interesting. It dipped about 6 miles an hour from last year, which was pretty notable. But it also had 16 more inches of vertical movement and 4 more inches of sweeping action, which was pretty significant. Josiah Gray was throwing strikes and missing bats with the fastball. That's huge and something that was a major issue last year. Fastball was pretty much the majority of his problems. And so if he can fix that, then I will be very impressed and intrigued. So that's something to follow there with Josiah Gray. Yumin Lin, awful stuff. He got absolutely obliterated with his fastball. I talked about this the other day, like how I don't like fastballs that are below 91. He was 89 last year. He was sitting 92 to 94. And I'm wondering if he was overthrowing a bit because he really got obliterated. He had the worst outing of anybody yesterday that pitched. He allowed 5 earned runs in just an inning. Gavin Loftus, see him. He added that bat speed last year, and then he tore his ACL. So we get to see it come to fruition. But he had 3 hard hits yesterday. I say hard hits. One of them is not even one. It's not technically a hard hit. He had a 103 EV and 106 mile an hour exit velocity. So I'm curious if those bat speed increases from last offseason this year. And Cooper Jerpy, whose velo was up, sitting 92. Jerpy's really funky. He has a hard to pick up release point. Really good stuff. So if Jerpy sits 92 rather than the 88, 89, 90 that I saw in the AFL, then I think we're cooking with something here. Jerpy could be really, really intrigued. But it's Cincinnati Reds Day. Let's break it down, starting with no surprise here. Noel V. Marte. He had an incredible season last year. He played in AA, AAA before making the majors. And while the results were okay in the minors, all the underlying data was really, really good. In the minors, 279, 358, 454, with 11 homers and 35 extra base hits in 99 games. Earned him the call to Cincinnati, where he proceeded to slash 316, 366, 456. 3 home runs and 7 doubles. Showed good speed, good power, and he retained his prospect eligibility just by a little bit. He had 123 plate appearances. I'm sure that they are hoping that Noel V. Marte can win Rookie of the Year this year and get them that extra draft pick. That's a huge incentive, and I think we're going to see so much more now is that we see these teams bring up a prospect in September, get them their at-bats, let them get their feet wet in the majors. But hold them back just enough where they don't graduate, and then they can take that run at Rookie of the Year next year. I think that's exactly what happened here. Marte was originally signed with the Mariners, traded into the Luis Castillo deal. He was really interesting because his progress as a player and with his body has been, really interesting to watch. He bulked up a ton, and there was a struggle period with Marte where he was really struggling to figure out his body and his swing because he had gotten so big so quick. And it wasn't a bad big. It was a jacked, muscular build, but he put on a ton of weight and filled out. And so it took Marte a little while, but in the process, he didn't lose any speed. His sprint speed is still there, and he's still stealing bases. The bat speeds comes easy. He had 106 mile an hour, 9th percentile last year, which is big pop for his age, averaging being north of 91, both in the minors and the majors. That's rather impressive there. And the contact, I think that was the biggest question always with Noah Marte was what kind of contact did he make? Well, the results were there, 86% in zone in the minors and 83% in the majors. And those are respectable rates. Like those are very possible for a hitter with his power and his speed. In that ballpark, Noah Marte should be a 30 home run bat. Like there's no questioning that Marte can be a 30 home run bat in that ballpark. It's suited for him perfectly. And I am really excited to see what he can do this year. And I think there's a real chance that Marte makes a run at Rookie of the Year. We shall see. But if he gives you 25 homers and steals 10 bags, I'm not saying that should be an expectation in 2024. But if he does that pretty regularly, that's a really good player. Somebody I'm weighing in on. I've very much hyped him all off. Maybe too much. The next two guys are pitchers, and I've really toyed with the order of these two pitchers, especially with one of these guys making significant gains this offseason. But I've stuck with Rhett Lauder at number 2. Rhett Lauder, we know, was the first-round pick last year out of Wake Forest. A very high floor arm. He's not as flashy as some of the arms in last year's draft class, like Paul Skeens, obviously, or Walter type. But very high floor. The pitch data, really, really good at Wake last year. He's fastball set 93 to 94 consistently, 17 inches of arm side run, and he locates it well. Now, that's hard to do when that ball is moving that much to the arm side, to be able to command that pitch well, and he does. He gets a ton of strikes with it. He's a heavy strike thrower, and he gets strikes with his slider and changeup also. Slider sits in the mid-80 range, a lot of spin on it, 2,800 RPM, traditional slider shape there. And like many Wake Forest arms, because they have that pitch lab where they really develop changeups, his best pitch is the changeup. No surprise there. The changeup tunnels really well off the fastball, and it's like a late dive off the map. Like it tunnels, and then the changeup gone. Like it's fallen off the plate completely. It's at 86 to 87 last year, 10 inches of IVB separation between the fastball and 17 inches of arm side like the fastball. So a similar movement profile, but it's falling off the table completely late in at bats. Lauder, heavy pitchability arm, excellent command. He's throwing a lot of strikes. If you want a safer arm, you got a very safe, high floor type arm. Now, I will say that there were some injury concerns right around draft time that kind of surfaced. And ultimately, he didn't pitch. Like, that's the reason he did not pitch. There was questions. Well, there were some major Red injury flags. The Reds already had to deal with them. It went through. He rested, and he's pitching this offseason. Now we're in the season. So he's been throwing, obviously, bullpens and stuff at camp. And it seems like he's good to go. We shall see, but I will keep a close eye on that. We did have a question regarding this. Can you talk about when to go for the floor versus on in a league or leagues that starts? I'm inclined to go with Lauder. So yeah, in a dynasty league where you're looking at like a high ceiling, high floor, like in a shallower league, I'm always shooting for upside, like no matter what. So if it's a 10-team league, like I'm going to take the upside. Like I'm easily going to take like a personal Aldrich over a Rhett Lauder in a shallower league. But I think there's a time and place for this high floor arm. And especially depends on your build. Like, I think you have to really factor that in too, is how is your rotation built out? Because if it's built out with a lot of high risk prospect arms, even high risk major league arms at that, then I think that an arm like Louder makes sense. Ultimately, like when I'm building a rotation for redraft or dynasty, I kind of want to mix. So I want a little bit of the high floor options. But you need the safety too. So I get the idea that maybe you're a little less inclined to go with a Rhett Lauder in a more shallow league, but ultimately, I think there is that good place for him where he does provide a lot of value in any, and I think it's really team dependent there. So depends on what you're looking for, but I think that shallower the league, the more upside you shoot for. That's my general rule there. So I hope that helps. Next guy who I kind of toyed with already and mentioned putting him 2 in the system. That's Chase Petty. Chase Petty had an awesome year last year. This offseason, man, oh man, has he really, really taken off. You look at the results last year, it's like, okay, they were really, really good. He pitched last year between high A and double A. It was only 2 starts. It was only 68 innings. He kind of limited due to injury stuff. But he pitched to a 1.72 ERA, which is really, really impressive. He only struck out 66 batters, but walked 15. Here's the weird thing with Chase Petty. Chase Petty, when he was drafted, was this 100-mile-an-hour fastball guy. Like he was touching triple digits out of high school with a big slider. Twins drafted him 26th overall. I won't say he regressed, but he became more of a command owner. Like Petty was like, okay, like I'm giving up the velo to throw strikes. Last season, he set low to mid 90s. It wasn't due to the injury concerns at all. He changed his release height in his arm slot. He's like throwing a sinker now with good run life. The command, exceptionally better. The slider plays upper 80s, or it did last year. The stuff is really good. I mean, the changeup made major strides last year too. So when you look at Chase Petty, it's like, okay, this guy had really good results last year with really good pitchability stuff. But you look, and fastball, 96 to 98 now. I mean, he's touching triple digits regularly. He was up to 99 in camp all year. Topping 99 is huge. I mean, the slider is a shorter movement profile, but you're looking at like upper 80s, like topping at 92 now, which is crazy. He's throwing a sweepers like and last year the issue I think was that the cutter and the slider were blending a lot. And this year he's differentiated. So the slider is sitting 85 with 15 inches of sweep. The changeup sitting at 90 with like 10 induced vertical break separation. Like it's getting a lot of drop. So it's really what you want to see. So Petty is back to throwing gas. And if he has the command, which I know we didn't see yesterday, but that will be a huge, huge point. And I think that he's one that soars up forward. This is the second straight year I've wrote about him on my pitching prospects that will break out. Last year, he was in the article, and this year that he would break out further, a top 100 guy that would continue to progress. More. And I truly believe that that is the case, what we're looking at with Chase Petty. Next arm, Connor Phillips. Phillips was all the hype because he had really big stuff in the minors. And then he gets the call, and it typically happens when a player doesn't come up and perform immediately. What's the reaction? Oh, well, he's not. And he wasn't good, but it was 20 innings. Through 20 innings with a 6.97 ERA, a lot of things that you want to forget about that performance. But Connor Phillips himself still has really good stuff and really good talent. It seems like people have been so quick to fade him. He threw 105 innings in the minors last year between double and triple A. And while a 3.86 ERA was not flashy, he had a 3.34 in double A. And then he jumped to triple A, which had the automatic ball strike system, which I think affected him a lot because we saw the walks go up pretty significantly. And that happened to a lot of guys. Much tighter strike zone. Walks are up, the results were up. weren't as good either. But strikeouts were there, 154 Ks and 105 innings. When you look at Connor Phillips, there's still stuff. Very athletic on the mound. He's a big fastball that sits 96 to 97. It's really good life up in the zone. He's throwing it a lot, and that's kind of my issue. He throws it 60% of the time. When he's locating it well, I think that it's a really good pitch. He's blowing it by hitters, which is significant. Sweeper, average 13 inches of horizontal. It's a really good pitch as well. It's in the mid-80s. Has nice depth on it. Good sweeping action. So it's a pitch that I really like. But the tough thing is that sometimes he's failing to throw strikes consistently with that pitch. And in doing so, ultimately it hurts him. So he's not getting chase on it because it's not a competitive pitch sometimes when he's missing. So that's the thing to watch. The curveball is used about the same as the sweeper. It's a distinct breaking ball, 12-6 shape, 50 inches of down movement, but it is a similar velocity band to the slider, but they differentiate its shape. He does have a changeup, doesn't use it all that often, but it does show nice fading action, so in mid to upper 80s. It could be a viable pitch when he needs it. So Phillips ultimately is going to compete for rotation spot, but I guess that he probably is in AAA to start the year. I think the Reds are going to give him every chance to be a starter. I'm not ruling that out yet. But if he does move to the bullpen, stuff is really, really good. I still really like it out of the backfield. And another question I do want to get to. If you were in a K to BB league, would you favor Louder over Petty? Louder seems to have the elite control. He does, but Petty did make those strides last year. And I'm wondering if those can stick. That's the biggest thing. Will those command and control gains stick with Chase Petty with the increased stuff? I mean, he did walk just 15 batters last year, but still a good result. Brett Lauder is obviously going to have the better command of those two, but I could see it going either way there. Like I said, I have him close anyway. If you want to bet on Lauder having the higher floor, the better command, I'm totally good with that. I have no problem doing so at all. Let's move to a bat. We've talked about several arms. Get back to the bat side with Ricardo Cabrera, who signed with the Reds back in 2022 for $2.7 million. He was the third highest bonus of that class, just behind Arias and Christian Vaquero. He was lauded as one of the best hit tool guys when he signed. Then he goes to DSL. He has 253 and he strikes out 20% of the time. And against DSL, that's not good. For a high hit tool guy, you should expect more. But the good news is that he came to the complex, stateside, and even in a single A, and he posted a 346, 475, 531 slash with a strikeout rate below 20%, and he paired it with a 13% walk rate. The power developed some. He had 5 home runs and 202 plate appearances. He had 16 extra base hits. He's really worked on his stance and swing. You look, and his stance is a little more open and a simple toe tap, but he's still explosive through the zone. Much less of a leg kick, more of a toe tap now. There's good bat speed here. He's young. He's smaller, but there is room to fill out. And typically we do see these guys add an inch or two. I mean, he's listed 5'11". I bet that he gets a little bigger and he fills out a little bit more with some power. Cabrera obviously got the good speed. He's going to steal. He's very successful on the base pass. 24 of 26 last year in 44 games is huge. And while I do think the speed may be closer to average long term, the instincts will allow him to continue to steal bases. Possible he moves to second base. But if he does, I still think there's good value there. Think about the fantasy landscape in second base and what Ricardo Cabrera could be with some power, with some speed, and with a high field hit. Pretty intrigued if he does shift over. He's a fun name. Blake Dunn. Blake Dunn was, I don't want to call him a pop-up, but in a way he was a pop-up. He doesn't really get the recognition that he deserves. He's an older prospect, 25 years old. But he's consistently hit since college. He was drafted in the 15th round. 21. He's hit as a professional. Hit in college as a professional. Career slash as a pro of 302, 423, 503. Dunn's 2023 season was a breakout in the sense that he did play a full season. He played more in 2023 than he did the previous 3 seasons combined. That's obviously contact skills above average. Made contact on 77% of pitches last year. He picks up spin well. He hits pitch types. I think that's huge. He shows plus caught times. Got some plus run times on him. He stole 54 bases, caught 7 times. Now, I'm not sure if he's going to be a plus runner for the entirety of his career, but still really good stuff there. And he hit for power. He hit 23 home runs last year, but the exit velocities don't really represent that. So I'm profiling him close to like a 15 home run bat, 15 to 18, can steal 25 bases. That's a really useful player. The question is he an everyday guy? And I don't know, but I do think we'll find out pretty quickly. I think he gets a crack this year. He kind of showed he is ready, and he's ready to see the Reds are ready to see what he can do at the major league level. With Blake Dunn, he's not going to break camp with the team most likely, but he's going to start to play. But I expect him to get some run in Cincinnati this year, and we'll have a good idea. Can he be an everyday guy? Is he a platoon bat? I think the jury's still out, but 2023 was a huge step forward for him. Maybe you look at this next guy and wonder, why am I a little lower on him? And that's Edwin Arroyo. Arroyo has a lot of pedigree. He was part of the Noelvi Marte trade that sent Luis Castillo to Seattle. And while he's kind of been profiled as a glove first, the bat's been really, really good. So he had a really good 2022 season, and he followed that up in 2023 with most of his season in high A. But he saw time in double A too, /252, 324, 433 with 13 homers and 52 extra base hits. He's aggressive. And that's a little bit of my concern with him. When you're swinging at 50% of pitches and chasing more than 30% of the time at lower levels, I am a little bit weary. The good news is he's younger. He saw some time in double A, which is good. I mean, very young for the age there. The power numbers, the exit velocities, they both suggest kind of below average power, but he does have a very explosive half in the swing. So maybe he plays up and gets to a little more power than you might think. I'm thinking about like Ozzie Albies. Like you watch Ozzie Albies swing, he uses his lower body in a big way to get to power, and Albies has had 31 seasons. He had 33 last year, which is huge. I do see the long-term appeal here with Arroyo, though, because he has really good speed. Successful stealing bases 29 of 36 times last year. He's 15 home run bat. The contact rates that could lead you to hit 260, 270. That's a solid player. I'm just not as overly high on him as some are. But I still like the profile. Probably a second baseman. But there's a really useful player here with Edwin Arroyo. And I'm really curious to see him spend most of the year in double A this year. Maybe get some time in trade. Cam Collier. You look at Cam Collier. He was drafted as a 17-year-old. He was enrolled at Chipola JUCO, like he literally graduated early, got his GED. He goes to Chipola, dominated much older players. He was the youngest player by far in junior college. Many saw him as a top 10 talent. He fell to the Reds at 18 overall. And I understand the concerns of why he did. He did spend the entire year last year as an 18-year-old. He showed big power. And actually, for his age, had one of the best 9th percentile exit velocities, which was 105, near 106. Pretty impressive. And his average exit velocity was north of 90 miles an hour. Pretty good out of an 18-year-old. But the results didn't come because he rolled over a lot of balls. He pounded it onto the ground. The barrel rate was not there at all because he had a 53% ground ball rate. None of those hard hits really turned into something. I mean, the underlying data is a complete mixed bag. He chased a little bit too much at 32%, but he made his own contact rate of 87% and overall contact of 77%. So when you look at Cam Collier, what's he got going for him? Well, there's good. The power was obviously there. Really good exit velocities. Then you look at the contact skills. They were there too. 87% end zone, really good. 77% overall, well above average, especially for his age in minor leagues. Very solid stuff. So when we look at this profile, it's very interesting. He's not good defensively. So he may need to shift to first base, which puts a lot of pressure on that. Can he get enough lift to be successful? With a guy this young, you certainly can see a swing change happening. And if he does, if he has that swing change, then I think he'll be okay here. So Cam Collier's values dipped. Maybe I am buying here because there's a lot of good stuff underlying. And if he makes it work, then there could be a major breakout this year. So I'm not out on Cam Collier yet. I'm still buying because the underlying data was so strong. Just got to get more. Next arm that I want to talk about, one of my favorites in last year's draft. I thought the Reds knocked the draft out. Ty Floyd. Floyd had a really solid year at LSU last season. He really raised his stock in the postseason. He had a beautiful performance in the College World Series where he dominated Wake, struck out 10, and then against Florida in the finals where he had an 8-inning start where he struck out 17. Floyd has a really fast arm. Fastball sits 95 consistently with 20 inches of IVP and 10 inches of horizontal movement. That pitch is really tough for hitters to pick up. Here's the issue with it. And not even the issue. He threw it 70% of the time last year. I will put the caveat on it that colleges do call pitchers pitches. It's not the catcher. It's not the pitcher. So you have a coach calling from the dugout, pitch calm, I guess. And so I'm wondering if you see that fastball usage decrease, it will have to be a starter. It's tough to be a starter that throws a fastball 70% of the time. But secondary is graded out exceptionally well, too. So it wasn't from a lack of secondaries that he was throwing the fastball so much. I mean, you look, and the slider and changeup were both using similar rates. Slider set 80 to 82, 10 inches of sweeping action. It was graded out as a plus pitch potentially. Changeup at 84, certainly plus pitch rate. 20 inches of horizontal, which is a ton. Like that's high end fade. 10 inches of IVB separation from the fastball, which is really good. So good depth, good fading action. I hope that this pitch continues to develop, and I hope he throws more often because I think there's something I really like here with his changeup with Ty Floyd. He does use the curve, but a lot less often. Say in the upper 70s, has good downward action. Has 10 inches of sweep like the slider, but it has a different shape and a different velocity band. I do believe that there's a chance that Ty Floyd develops into a high-end starter. But there are some concerns about landing the secondaries for strikes. Those things will have to be answered. But that's not to say that I'm not betting on Ty Floyd a lot this year. Wherever I can get him, I'm getting him in a Dynasty League. The next two guys, actually, let me talk about Sal Stewart. I'm a little higher on Sal Stewart than I was before this write-up. And this write-up was back in November, actually. So I do have to go back and update these rankings because I do have Sal Stewart a little higher now. Sal Stewart, really fun name. He's young. He was selected 32nd overall in the 2022 draft. He played 8 games in the conference, spending the 2023 season in single A and high A. He did slash 275, 396, 416. He had 12 home runs and 36 extra base hits and 518 plate appearances. You see the high OVP? It backs. He's a selective hitter. He swung at 42 pitches last year. Didn't chase out the zone at all. He had an overall contact rate of 80%. That's rather impressive as well. He walked hard and struck out. That's huge. I mean, the high OVP is a huge aspect, but he posted 9th percentile EV right around MLB average, and his average EV was around 88 miles an hour. So there's power. And then I look at the frame. 6'3", 215. I'm like, there's a lot of juice still to be had in here. Like, I mean, 19 last year, like he's going to add some strength. He's going to add power. And if the contact MVP skills stick, I think there's a really intriguing bat here. And Sal Stewart, I know he's popped up in top 100s this offseason. I would not be shocked if he is not more of a consensus top 100 guy by midseason. I really like the profile. The next guy who I'm lower on than most, and that's Carlos Jorge. And there's a reason. I'll talk about it. Now, Jorge signed back in 2021 for $495K, had a really strong showing in the DSL and then in the Florida Conference. But the underlying data on him is always a little bit concerning to me. He last season got more power than people may have expected, but then you look at the underlying data and it's just not great. The average EV was south of 85 miles an hour. The 9th percentile was below 100. Those are bottom tier power numbers. I think that's looking at like a 30 grade power number. He's gotten to home runs by hitting the ball at ideal angles, so I'm not ruling out that he can hit for power. There's certainly a chance. He's aggressive, though. He's quite aggressive. So it's 70% of pitches in zone, which is good. You want to see hitters swing at pitches in the zone. But also chasing north of 30%, and the contact rate was just shy of 80% on pitches in the zone. So not great contact. It's like below average contact, below average EVs, well below average EVs, actually. So that's something that I'm a little bit concerned about. He's played second. He's played some outfield. I'm curious kind of where he lands long term. He does have speed, so that's obviously really good. But I'm a little concerned about the aggressiveness and the poor EVs, which is why I'm a little bit lower on him than most. And for that reason, I do want to talk about Hector Rodriguez. I do have him a little bit lower. There's some guys I do have ranked above him because we're looking at the guys that I'm a little lower on the system. And everybody loves Hector Rodriguez. And I understand why. He's fun. He's a smaller dude, but he's out there mashing. But I do have some concerns about the profile. In 2023, he posted 293, 343, 495 slash, 16 homers, 18 stolen bases. That's impressive. More than 50 extra base hits. That's pretty significant as well. But one of the most aggressive hitters in the minors. Swung at 60% of pitches overall. He chased it at a rate near 50%. If you're chasing over 40%, it's a major red flag. Rodriguez chasing at a rate near 50%. Make sure you hear that clearly. 50% chase. And in the Winter League, guess what? He performed well, but he did it again. I'm just so baffled by this profile. I'm looking at like, okay, how does he keep getting away with this? The contact rate was respectable in zone. That's why he counteracts it. 81% in zone. So while he's not making a ton of contact on those chase pitches, 81% zone contact, that's good. But he walks at a low clip, obviously, because he is such an aggressive swinger. And then you look, and the EVs are all right. They're pretty solid for his age. 87 mile an hour average EV, 2 mile an hour 9th percentile. And he gets the ball in ideal launch angles, which is huge. I think that he profiles like a 15 to 20 homer bat. He probably doesn't steal as much long term, maybe 10 stolen bases, but that'll be something to watch. I don't think he's going to be a high average or OBP type just because of the aggressiveness and the amount of chase. That's a huge red flag. So two guys I'm a little lower on in the system, obviously being Carlos Jorge and Hector Rodriguez. Both fun players, but players I do have some concerns about just because of the data. So let's talk about some players that I am higher on than most, I do really like. First one is catcher Alfredo Duno. He got a $3.1 million bonus in 2023. He matched in the DSL, 303, 451, 493, 6 home runs, 17 extra base hits. That was huge in 45 games. He's very filled out for his age, already 6'2", 210. But considering that he was 17 all last year, I wouldn't be shocked if he's still an inch or two. He's kind of reminds me of a little bit taller Francisco Alvarez. That's lofty, I know, but it's kind of what I see here when I watch. Frame probably limits his athleticism long term. The power is the carry here. The power is really, really good. Plate and swing skills are good. We don't want to put too much stock into DSL data because there's a lot of non-competitive pitches, but he walked at such a high clip, 20% of the time, struck out 21% of the time. Contact skills were solid too. The question is, does he move off catcher? If he moves off, the profile is probably a little less valuable, but I do think that the bat is strong enough to play multiple positions, and he does have a strong arm behind the plate, which does give him a good chance to stick. So Alfredo Duno, certainly a player that I like to move up boards significantly this year, as I do this guy, Leonardo Balcazar. He was already primed for a breakout last year, but torn ACL, just 18 games in. He had a strong 2022 in the complex. He slashed 322, 411, 476 with 4 homers, and for the injury in single A Daytona, was slashing 324, 427, 471. So Balcazar was showing a lot of good things there before the injury, and we already saw him show the ability to perform well in the complex. He is 19 and will be 19 for about half the season. He won't turn 19 until mid-June, which is significant. I mean, looks like a top-of-the-order bat to me. Strong contact, strong OBP skills. It's a simple approach. He doesn't try to do too much with it. He's hitting the balls where they're pitched. There's good gap power, but I do think he can get to home run power because he gets good torque in his lower half. He's grown. He's built out the frame. I think he's bigger than his listed 5'10", 190, personally. And we do know that he added 10 pounds of muscle this past year. This was at the time of write-up in November that he had added 10 pounds of muscle just doing workouts when he was rehabbing his knee. He's back swinging the bat regularly. He should be back for the beginning of 2024. Balcazar sees his stock rise significantly this year. I'm very, very excited about what Leonardo Balcazar brings to the table. As I'm about the next few guys, one of them is Sammy Stafura, who the Reds drafted this past year. I don't think they expected to get Stafura, 43 overall. He is a really good athlete, and he has really good skills at shortstop. He landed a bonus $500,000 higher than the slot value because that's exactly what the Reds were going to do. Save a little money with Rhett Lauder at the top. They spent it on a couple of really solid players down below. Stafura's run grades are plus or better. He's flashed some 70 run times. So he's got good speed. He's going to steal bases, got good instincts, and he's very athletic at shortstop. There is natural loft in his swing, which helps him get to a little more power. He added weight and strength in 2023, and the home runs came naturally. He didn't try to force it. It just happened. There's some questions about the contact, and that's what I'm looking for early in the season. Like, what kind of contact does Sammy Stafura make? If he makes good contact, then okay, I think we're looking at something. So that's something to watch. And if he does make contact, I think that we're looking at a potential power speed. Maybe he's a 2020 type player if all clicks right. There are tools with Sammy Stafura. I like this profile a lot. I think it's all going to hinge on the hit. So watch that pretty closely. The other guy they drafted, Cole Schoenwetter. Schoenwetter, prep guy, big 6'3" righty. Already has a fastball that's not sitting, reaching 96, 97. Not quite sitting that high. If he was, he would have gone much higher. Big curveball. He hides the ball well from a low release height. It's a really deceptive release point, and he throws deceptive pitches at that. Fastball located up, a lot of ride. As I mentioned, touching 96, 97, but sitting in 92 to 94 range, depending on the start. I think that obviously when you look at the frame and see 6'3", 190, so Schoenwetter fills out the frame. He's going to add things to that velo. I mean, if he's sitting mid-90s with that power curveball, I like the profile a lot. I mean, he didn't really need a true third pitch because he dominated prep guys with the fastball and curveball, but he wanted to throw the changeup more. That'll be a big point of development for him to be a starter long-term. This is common with most prep guys. I mean, they have two pitches they play with. They don't need a changeup. Most people aren't Dylan Lesko that has a 70 grade change out of high school, but also has a really good fastball and slider. That's just not the case for most. he has a quick arm. He sells his pitches well, and he's got a good feel for the pitches. I think we see Cole Wetter really take off this year, and he's one that I'm excited to watch and follow. A couple of other guys, Julian Aguilar, not Aguilar, it's Aguilar, no L in there. Aguilar, 12th rounder in 2021. He's pitched at a high level at every stop. And then we begin to see him pop off. I got some pitch data on him, and okay, I think there's a lot to like here with Julian Aguilar. To begin with, he posted a 2.95 ERA across 125 innings. He had 138 strikeouts and 37 walks. So really good results with the fastball. It's 94 to 96. It's a lower IVV pitch, and he throws two variations of it too. The four seam, lower IVV, 6 inches of run, but the sinker, 14 to 15 inches. Both pitches do have lower VAs, which is good. It's a vertical approach angle. Makes it tougher for hitters to pick up. Flatter pitch is what we talk about when we talk about VAA. So that helps them get more swing and miss. The shapes are just like, okay. But the VAA is good. The slider sits around 80. It's a high spinning pitch, 12 inches of sweeping action. And there's good IVB separation in the four seam. And the slider, he gets a lot of chase on the slider out the zone. Plus, he gets swing and miss. Curveball does sit in the same velo band, sitting around 80, but it does have a distinct shape. It's negative 10 inches of IVB, which is like somewhere like 50 to 55 inches of vertical drop and 12 inches of sweeping action. So very horizontal to the slider, but much more vertical. Both breaking balls flash plus, in my opinion, and they're the go-to swing and miss pitches. He really does have a true 5-pitch mix. He throws a change up and up. It's 86, 87. It's 15 inches of fade, mostly to left-handed hitters. So that's obviously significant. There was some regression in Double A. I think leaves questions about who he is long term. Was he just dominating younger hitters at high A? I'm not sure that's really the case. I do think that he needs to tweak the fastballs a little bit. But he does throw strikes. He has a starter's frame, arsenal. So I do like the profile here. We're looking at Julian Aguilar. I am intrigued by what he will do this year. As is this next guy, Rhys Hines. I'm pretty sure he had a home run yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. He was drafted as a third baseman in 2019, second rounder, but he moved off, played the outfield in 2022. He's honestly been injured much of his career. And he had not played more than 79 games in any season until last year. He stayed healthy and played 109. There's never been any question the power output from Rhys Hines. I mean, it's like 70 grade power. You look at the exit velocity. The contact, however, was a big question mark. I say was because, and it may still be, but this is interesting. There were massive splits in the first and second half last year when it came to contact and when it came to strikeouts. Last year in the first half, slash lines were actually pretty similar. So this is weird. 259, 316, 527. And in the second half, 271, 342, 535. So not a lot similar. But the first half came with a 37.5% strikeout rate and a 62% contact rate. That's 20 great contact and strikeout rates. But in the second half, his contact rate jumped 11 percentage points to 73%. And his strikeout rate, an 11% drop, 26.4%. That's wild. That's a huge difference. And I don't know if I believe that the contact rates stick, but man, I am certainly going to follow it closely. I am very intrigued by what Rhys Hines can do because the pop, the power is so good. It's an easy 30 home run bat, in my opinion. He provides some sneaky stolen bases. It's all going to hinge on contact. Or those gains real. We shall see. Ryan Richardson. Richardson was added to the 40-man in November of 2022 after missing the entire season due to Tommy John. Showed how much the Reds really liked him. Because for a guy that hadn't pitched in a while, to be able to add that man 40 with a roster crunch situation shows that they really like and value. So, Ryan Richardson, obviously, we didn't see much. We didn't know how he was going to return, but he immediately came back in 2023 and he looked the part. Fastball was 97. He was getting a ton of ride and good IVP numbers up in the zone and getting whiffs with the fastball. And when you get whiffs with the fastball, okay, I think that sets up everything when you can miss that. With the fastball and have decent strike rates there, he pairs it with a really strong changeup. Upper 80s, good depth, 15 inches of fade, 13 inches of IVP separation between that and the fastball is significant. The curveball has good depth to it, negative 11 inches of IVP, so a really good downward breaking pitch, which I like to see. I think that's pretty intriguing stuff there just from the fastball changeup. But does he throw enough strikes? His strike rate was 60%, so that's a little bit below what we want to see from a starter. And he walked 14.3% of hitters he faced. Good news is, struck out 30.5% of hitters he faced. I do think that coming back from TJ, that obviously there's going to be questions with the control and the commands, but I do see the ability for him to really jump forward this year if the strike throwing improves. But I think a lot will hinge on that if he can be a starter. So we shall see. Ryan Richardson is pretty interesting. There are some other names I do want to hit on real quick. Jacob Hurtubise, and it doesn't look like it's pronounced that way at all. Looks like it's Hurtubise, but it's Hurtubise, the pronunciation. 39th round pick, which obviously the draft doesn't even go that deep anymore. But it's not often you see a 39th rounder make the majors. Hurtubise might be that guy that does it. Saw him reach AAA in 2023. Slash line of 330, 479, 483 last year with 7 homers and 45 stolen bases. Very conservative hitter, doesn't swing often, walked to 17% clip, struck out 14% of the time. Really good contact rates, zone rate of 90%, huge, 83% overall, which is 70 grade. Really good contact skills, very low chase rates. There's not much power. He's got good speed. I clocked him as a plus runner in the AFL. So plus runner, good hit tool, good OBP. Jacob Hurtubise is pretty interesting. Alfredo Alcantara. He signed in January 2023 as well. He got the second highest bonus behind Duno. He is shorter, but he does have a pretty strong frame. He spent the entire year as a 17-year-old. He does some interesting things. I don't really love the mechanics. I think they could be toned down a bit, but the results were really good. He showed the ability to get to power in the DSL. He had 14 extra base hits in 35 games. Slash 267, 411, 466, and walked 15% of the time. We have very little on him, much like Duno, so I think there's still question marks, but Alfredo Alcantara, somebody that I do think could jump up significantly, as is this guy, Shang In Lin. He signed with him in July 2023 for $1.2 million out of Taiwan. Interestingly enough, Lin is a two-way guy who probably is just hitter, but his fastball is 99, strong slider, doesn't really have any command of it. I think that the Reds are committed to developing Lin as a hitter. He lefty, does a lot of damage. He's actually a switch hitter, but he does damage from the left side. I think more contact, and he shows high end speed on the base pass. Plus clock times, really good runner. I mean, it's a small sample, but I do think that Lin could be pretty intriguing. He doesn't have a ton of future power, in my opinion, but he does have speed. He does have good OBP skills as well. So Shang In Lin, who was a late signee last year in the international class, but something and somebody to keep an eye on. I missed for some reason, he was a switch hitter. He's just a lefty, by the way. It's just a lefty hitter, but it's pretty intriguing. A couple other quick hit names who this guy I do think moves upwards, and that's Adam Sirmanowski, he made some major jumps last year. He sits in the mid-90s with a fastball. He's young. He won't turn 20 until this coming June. But he showed some really good strikeout numbers. He had 43 Ks in 7 innings last year. He was a 15th rounder in 2022. And he's a local guy to me here in South Carolina. So somebody that wasn't really on radars and kind of shocked that when he got drafted in the 15th round. But big righty with a big fastball. I'm watching Adam Sirmanowski pretty close. Somebody that I do think can make a jump. Zach Maxwell is a big reliever. I say big. He's big. 6'6", 275. He's got a big fastball. I mean, he was consistently 97, 98 in the AFL when I saw him. He gets a ton of strikeouts. It's a really good power curveball as well. He's a reliever through and through, but I do think this is a reliever that could contribute. Hunter Holland is one to watch. I mean, he was a JUCO guy. They transferred to Arkansas that they drafted. There were mixed results in Arkansas, but he was still a third rounder. He's a low 90s fastball lefty with 4 pitches. I think he's a pretty solid one. Victor Acosta's one that's kind of fallen off a little bit. He signed for $1.8 million back in 2021 with the Padres. He was traded to the Reds in Drury. I still believe in the potential profile here with an athlete. So we'll see what he does this year. I think 2024 is a big year for him. This next guy, Jay Allen, who was drafted 30th overall in 2021. He's been limited with injuries, but the results weren't so great when he has been on the field. Other than post-draft, like when he got drafted immediately after he hit the ground running that year, I do think there are questions still regarding him. So I'm following him pretty closely and seeing what he could be. But this is going to wrap us up. I got to get ready for my Tout Wars draft now. Thank you for tuning in early with me. Cincinnati Reds breakdown. A lot of fun arms in the system and a lot of fun bats at that. Even graduating the amount of guys that they did last year, I'm still really intrigued by the Cincinnati Reds farm system. So thank you for joining me. Hope you guys have a happy Tuesday. Enjoy watching baseball, and I will see you tomorrow.